and welcome to Sew with Stacy. Today's session is going to be all about upcycling. Now, upcycling is when you have some clothes that you might have in your closet or you might have gotten from a secondhand store and you wish to transform them into something else that you really want to wear. I'm really lucky. A few weeks ago, my mother-in-law handed me this beautiful skirt, which I think I can make into something really beautiful for my daughter to wear. The best thing about this skirt is there is a ton of fabric. It's got a pleated waistband and it's a maxi skirt, so it's going all the way down to someone's ankles. And we'll probably end up having about 2.5 meters of fabric just from this one skirt alone, which means I can make whatever I want to make for my daughter. I'm not quite sure what we're going to make yet, but in this video, I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I think about and how you can upcycle your own clothes into something else that you might be wanting to wear more of. Are you ready to get started? Let's get sewing. Before you can start upcycling, you need something to upcycle. Like I said earlier, I was really fortunate my mother-in-law gave me this beautiful skirt that will work really well for making a dress for my daughter. But you might not have something yet, and you can get inspiration from lots of different places. First, go to your own closet, see if there's anything in there that you would like to upcycle. You can also even look in your linen cupboards. Tablecloths, sheets, and even curtains make great fabric to upcycle with. Or even go to a secondhand shop and find an amazing piece, or a couple if you can, that you'll want to make a wonderful garment from. When you do find things to upcycle, have a look at some of the wonderful special features that that item might have. This skirt, one of the things I really liked was this waistband. Not only is it a really nice waistband, but you can reuse it, and if you cut it just underneath the sew line, you can actually reuse it in your new item or for something else that you might have in the future. It was also really helpful to have some buttons on this skirt, because if I wanted to have some sort of button or zipper on my item that I'm going to make, it's good to get an item that has those things, that you can reuse them and not have to buy them from your local fabric shop. These cute little buttons, I don't think I'm going to use on my garment that I'm going to make, but I am definitely going to put them in my stash of buttons that I can use at another point in time. So it's a really good idea to have a look at all of the other additional features that your garment might have when you do want to upcycle it. Another thing I really do look for is pockets. I love things with pockets. However, it can be a bit challenging to sew pockets into new garments. So if you find one that has pockets, you can deconstruct it in a way along the edge of the seam so that you can actually reuse this pocket for your next garment if you wish. I also even look for back pockets. This particular skirt doesn't have any back pockets, but if I wanted some other types of pockets, not just side ones, in my new garment, I would be able to look for that. This skirt also has some wonderful pleats. I don't plan on using pleats in my new item. However, it's something else that you can look for and look at all of the great features that this item has that you can reuse for the next garment that you're going to make. As I move further down into the skirt, I've noticed that there's also this wonderful side slit. Side slits are really good if you want to reuse them for another skirt, or you can even use them as part of a sleeve for a blouse. And finally, I always look at the hem of a skirt. Now, I hate to hem anything, and a lot of my projects that I haven't finished tend to be because they require a really good hem. If an item already has a really nice hem like this one does, it has an overlocked edge plus a really nice folded over, I'll try to find a way to reuse that and again reduce the amount of work that I have to do when I recreate this item into a new one. As we get ready to start making our new garment from our upcycled item, Have a walkthrough of your own garments that you've chosen. Take a look at their special features and how you might be able to reuse these into the new garment that you're going to make. Are there pockets that you want to use? Are there some zippers that you want to have? Do you actually want these items but don't have them? Maybe you need to go find something else that you can upcycle. Have a think through a little bit about what you've got and what you want to make sure you have all of the pieces in place to be able to create your new garment. Now I'm going to be making a dress from this. I'm going to be using my own pattern, but you might have a pattern that you've bought, or you might even want just to play with it a little bit. But let's go ahead and get started on deconstructing our skirt and making our garment. When you're ready to start deconstructing your garment, the first thing you need to do is wash it. If you're getting garments from secondhand or even ones that might have been in your closet, they would have been there in a while, and you're going to want to make sure that they're nice and clean. There's two ways you can deconstruct your items. The first way is the way I'm doing here, which is by cutting along the seam lines and making sure that I'm not wasting any fabric. The reason why I'm doing this is I want to optimize the amount of fabric I have for my pattern. My pattern is my own pattern, and it's a lot of rectangles. So I need to make sure that I have enough fabric to be able to cut out to meet the pattern needs for my new garment. The second way you can cut out your fabric is by just putting the pieces of the pattern directly on the item without cutting along the seam lines. But before you do that, you have to iron it. It is really important that you iron fabric before you cut any pattern out of it. Otherwise, what will happen is the fabric will be buckled or it'll be put over one another, and when you cut out your pattern, the pattern lines will be slightly askew, and when you try to sew everything together, your measurements will not fit quite right. So make sure you spend your time to iron all of the pieces appropriately and that you get rid of all of those creases. The final thing you want to do is you want to cut out any of the additional haberdashery items such as buttons, zippers, and even pockets that you might be using for this new garment that you're making. And if you do plan on using any of those special features, make sure you iron them. I'm going to take a little extra time to iron out and cut the pockets from my fabric. The pockets I'm going to make on my new garment are slightly different than the pockets from the skirt. They're just going to be a basic side seam pocket. So I'm cutting around the front part of the pocket, but to reuse the inner side of the pocket. And then eventually I will use this to also create a template to cut out a couple additional pieces that I will need to be able to insert the pocket on the side seam of my new dress for my daughter. Now that I've deconstructed my garment, I'm now ready to go ahead and get started on cutting out and putting together my new dress. Today I'm going to make a pillowcase dress for my daughter. It is called a pillowcase dress because it is typically made from a pillowcase. It's perfect for an upcycling project. It contains two panels that are 20 inches by 28 inches, which is the typical size of a pillowcase. You will also need some sort of ribbon or cord to use around the neckline in order to create that wonderful halter top look to the dress. I'm not using a pillowcase, but I'm going to be using the fabric that I just cut out from the skirt. And I will measure and I will cut out the fabric for the two 20 by 28 inch panels that I need for the dress. This is one of my absolute favorite patterns because it is so easy and it's a great way to start upcycling, and especially if you're a new sewer, this is a really, really easy and quick sewing project. You won't need much time, you don't need much fabric. Heck, you can even go into your linen cupboard right now and go grab a pillowcase and get started. And you end up with a wonderful outfit that your daughter, your niece, or another little person can wear and look absolutely fabulous. Now that I've cut the 2 panels, I need to cut out the armholes onto the side of each of the panels. Oh, this is my cat. This is Charlotte. She's going to join us today. To create these armholes, I need to measure down from the top of the shoulder of the person I'm making the dress for to just underneath their armpit. And then I also want to cut around the side of it as well, so it creates a nice little opening for the arm. I mark this with my chalk, and I use a little bit of a curve on the bottom because underneath the arm you don't want to have it too straight, you want to have a nice curve. I fold over the panels and then I cut the 2 sides so my armholes are there. Next, I just want to mark where the top of my pocket's going to be when I insert it into the side seam. And I need to make this mark on both sides of the panel and on both panels. I've pre-measured this with the person I'm making the dress for to make sure that the pocket's going to be in the right place. The final thing I need to do is I need to grab the pockets that I've pre-cut from the original skirt, and I'm going to need to cut 2 more of those to be able to create that side pocket into the dress. So I'm using some extra fabric that I had from when I cut out the original panels and outlining the fabric with the template that I have from the original pocket and cutting them out. This will give me enough pockets that I can insert into the side seam for the dress. To start, we need to put the pockets on the 2 panels of the dress. So we will take one of the panels and lay it face up on our table. We will then grab a pair of our pockets that we just cut, and we will take the one that when we put it face down, the long straight side seam will match the side seam of the dress. And we will line the top with that mark that we put on the panel. Once we line up that side seam, we will go ahead and pin it in place. We will want to make sure that we put all 4 of our pocket pieces on the 4 sides of our dress panel. And once we've pinned everything in place, we will go ahead and sew along that side seam to make sure our pockets are put on correctly. Now that we've sewn our pockets on our dress panels, we need to sew the 2 panels together. So place one of our panels on our table facing upward and make sure that the pockets are pushed out so they kind of look like elephant ears. Grab the second panel and have it face downward and line up all of the sides so that they are matching. This includes the pockets, the arm holes, all of the side seams. And once you're happy that they're all lined up, we are going to pin and sew along that side seam around the pocket that we just inserted and down to the hem of the dress panel. We'll need to do that on both sides of our dress panel, and we want to make sure we pin it in place before we do any additional sewing. it's time to do a little bit of ironing. It's always good to kind of iron your seams after you sew them. It gives it a nice finish as well as keeps the... We now need to do a 1/4 inch hem on the armholes of the dress. And the best way to do this is ironing down that hem before you sew. It will make it a lot easier. It might be a little bit tricky to do this, especially around the bottom edge where it's curved, but just keep messing around with it and make sure that you have that 1/4 inch hem and use that iron. It will really help make sure that it's nice and straight and easy for you to sew. After you hem those armholes, go ahead and iron down those seams again to give it a really nice finish and to get those seams nice and set. Next, we need to create the pockets on the top part of the dress where it's going to be at the neck to be able to insert our ribbon to create that lovely halter top look to the dress. This will be a 1 inch pocket at the top. So what you want to do first is fold down a 1/4 inch piece of fabric, iron it, and then do a 1 inch down to create that nice pocket where you can put the ribbon through. Using your iron is a really good idea in this case because it will keep the fabric down while you sew and you can create a really nice clean finish. Our final step is to grab our ribbon and to put it through the channel that we just made. Grab a safety pin, put it to the end of the ribbon and push it through that channel. If you have any ribbon at home in your stash or something that's part of another dress, this is a good place to be reusing it. I really try not to buy anything new for anything that I'm upcycling. Congratulations, you've just upcycled a skirt to a beautiful dress, and we even had enough fabric to make a drawstring bag and a scrunchie. Both patterns can be found on our channel, Sew with Stacy. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for some more wonderful sewing tutorials with me, Stacy.